Once the pride of the U.S. Navy, the USS Plainview was the most advanced ship of its time. This hydrofoil was able to rise 10 feet above the ocean and travel in speeds of over 40 miles per hour. The secret to its lightning speed was 2 gas turbine engines combined with 3 hydrofoils. Fast forward to present day, the ship currently lays waste virtually at the mouth of the Columbia River. How could such a marvelous invention be allowed to suffer such a humiliating fate? Today, we'll take a closer look on The Planet Traveler. Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. One of my favorite things to do in the whole wide world is to check out abandoned boats. And that's what today's episode involves. It involves a derelict boat that, of all entities, the U.S. Navy left just sitting there. Actually, in their defense, I think they sold it to someone, and the private party they sold it to let it sit there. But it's the USS Plainview, and it was a U.S. Navy ship that was commissioned back in 1969, and it was a hydrofoil. It was supposed to be the wave of the future. It went 40 miles an hour on open sea, and it was supposed to be the wave of the future. But for whatever reason, it didn't work out, and the Navy decommissioned it in 1978. They sold it to a private party, and they left it sitting there, and that boat's been there ever since. So, let's go check this boat out. I first noticed the USS Plainview on my drive from Seattle to Cannon Beach, Oregon. I only caught a glimpse of the ship, and when it finally registered what I had seen, I had already passed by. I made it a point to visit it the next time I was in the neighborhood. 1 year later, the time had finally come. Much to my disappointment, there was one minor detail separating me from the ship.
No trespassing. Well, that's a problem. Guess we'll have to find another way to check out this boat.
I had already gone too far to throw in the towel, so I began to look at options. My original plan was to launch from the beach and kayak to the ship, but for some asinine reason, I didn't bring my kayak. I was kicking myself as I watched this guy paddle back to shore. The next option was to walk alongside the beach. At the time, the water level was a little too high, so I wasn't sure if I could make it to the ship without getting wet. Also, there was one more hurdle that I had to contend with. These little pricks can be quite an annoyance, but to get to the beach, I would have to deal with them.
Okay, first things first, the land isn't exactly hospitable. As far as visiting this derelict boat. Scattered all around the ground, are these thorny bushes, and they're quite common in Washington. They're annoying when you get pricked, and they're all over the place. So that's the main objective, is to avoid getting stabbed by these prickly vines.
So I set out to find the best way down to the beach. I walked alongside the road looking for a path. Surely, I wasn't the first one to try to get down to this beach. Shortly, I found a trail that led down to the beach. Those that had come before me had blazed their way down, and the best part was that the thorns had already been trampled. I carefully negotiated the rocks with my two bad ankles, careful not to fall. Making matters worse was the fact that my balance wasn't the best.
That was easy. Let's go check out this boat.
To my left was an old rusty barge. If it wasn't for the old Navy ship on my right, I would have been all over that barge. But with the USS Plainview in my sights, I didn't give that barge a second thought. I made my way to the Navy ship. With the water receding, it was a relatively easy walk to the ship, so far. Almost as easy as clicking the subscribe button for more awesome adventures in the near future. So go ahead, do it. Do it. And while you're at it, don't stop there. Please like and share this video to all your friends. Appreciate you.
When I first got here, you couldn't even walk alongside the beach here because of high tide. High tide was at 8:47, so I got here at 10, and I had to kill some time to wait for the tide to go down. Now that the tide is going down, I might have a shot at making it to the boat. I'm hoping I can do that. I don't know if I'll go on it, especially if there's a no trespassing sign. I'm definitely not doing that, but I'm going to try to get up as close to the boat as possible.
Checking my progress, it appeared that I was halfway to the ship. So far, I had made tremendous strides. I was getting to the point where I could see the USS Plainview with vivid detail. With each step closer to the boat, the excitement grew more and more. At this point, I began to realize that I had worn the wrong shoes for this occasion. The path to the boat became soggy and muddy. The water had recently receded from this part, and the ground was extremely moist. I couldn't have chosen a more perfect day to do some exploration, and the water seemed so calm and clear.
Getting closer. The next time I come back, I'm definitely bringing my kayak. I think it'll offer a different perspective to see this boat. This thing is much larger than I thought it was, and it was a hydrofoil. That's pretty cool. It's a pretty cool looking boat. It's a shame that it's left to lay waste here, but it's pretty cool to see.
Don't you hate when something is so close, but it seems to take forever to get there? That's what I was experiencing here. Even though it was close, it seemed like I was never going to get to the ship. As I neared the ship, I began to encounter fragments of what appeared to be parts from the boat. Of course, I had to investigate.
Holy crap. Looks like a mass piece of tin foil. Doesn't look like it's very heavy, but I don't know. Let's go find out.
Finally, I had reached the outer perimeter of the ship. The ship was tilted on its side and in a vulnerable state. The closer I got, the larger the rocks became, all covered with a coat of green. Making matters worse was the fact that these rocks were extremely slick. The boat was beached in an area completely covered by mud. It became clear at this point that I wasn't prepared to board the ship. I then began to focus on just getting a good look at it. I spent quite a bit of time just admiring the ship from this vantage point. It was clear that the boat had been stripped of its most valuable parts, and all that was left was a big chunk of metal. There were so many cool areas left unexplored. I so wanted to board this vessel and closely examine the deck. But for now, the best I could do was use my telephoto lens for some up-close shots.
I want to climb this massive tree over here. That would give me a better view of the ship, but I'm afraid if I do that, I'm going to end up getting wet. And I don't feel like getting wet today. Nor do I feel like getting my equipment wet. But it's worthy of a look, at least. Well, unfortunately, looks like that concludes our tour. Not going to get a chance to get a real good look on top of the boat. I don't want to trespass, but still a good adventure to come out here. So I'm gonna head back for coppers try to cite me or something for being out here.
That was awesome. If you are ever in the Astoria area, you gotta make it a point to check out this boat. But I do have to forewarn you, to get to this boat will require you to trespass because there's a no trespassing sign there. But I think it's worth it. If you want more information on this destination, please go to my website and I will post it there. Good job.